InnerQuest explores various pathways through which you can connect with the infinite wisdom of the universe and apply it to personal, professional, and spiritual growth. This program, featuring accomplished practitioners, educators, and authors, is provided by Infinity Foundation, an innovative center for holistic studies and research. We invite you to share this journey with us.
Hello, welcome to InnerQuest. My name is Jay Stone, your host for today, and our guest is Tom Masbaum. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you, Jay.
Well, let me tell the audience a little bit about you. Tom is an advanced EFT practitioner and instructor since 2004, and for those of you who don't know, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. Tom has conducted 7,500 individual EFT sessions, mostly on the phone, and has had over 5,000 participants in his classes and workshops. He has presented EFT workshops at 3 local colleges in 16 states and London, England. Tom calls his practice EFT with a guarantee, where he guarantees success or no charge. Well, Tom, let's start with the basic question. What is EFT?
Good. EFT is simply tapping on the acupuncture spots, so it's acupressure or acupuncture without needles.
And so this, where you're tapping here, are those, would those be a spot people typically would tap?
In the EFT world, there's about 30 spots to go through the whole process.
Is there one by the mouth?
Yes, right underneath the nose,
Yeah.
and in the chin area.
And what are these spots for?
Well, for responsibility, fault, blame, shame.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's interesting, responsibility, fault, blame, shame, right by the mouth.
Yeah. I shouldn't have said it.
Yeah. All right. Is there like scientific evidence that backs up EFT?
There's a lot of studies. If you Google them, actually now there's hundreds of studies where they've proven the efficacy of it, where it actually beats the medical procedures.
So what type of problems is EFT good for?
Mostly emotional stuff. In the EFT world, it's handled for grief, anxiety, things like that.
Mm-hmm. PTSD?
PTSD, it's marvelous.
Yeah, and the reason why I brought that up, my neighbor is a veteran, Afghanistan, Iraq veteran, and he was a big proponent of EFT because it helped him so much get over his PTSD.
Yeah, it works.
Yes.
Works. There are thousands of us around the country, thousands of people who just read the manual, started showing people, started helping people, and it works.
Well, why don't you tell our audience, you told me before the show that you were a therapist, and you're an advanced EFT practitioner instructor, so why don't you talk a little bit about the training to the initial training, and then how you became advanced and instruct.
Okay, let me, first off, my background, for years I was always interested in the discussion groups and prayer groups. I always participated in the thought type conversations. Mm-hmm. So back in August of '04, my one daughter's a child psychologist, and she called me. She lives up in Evanston, and I'm south, southern suburbs. Mm-hmm. And she knew I'd be coming up to visit my grandson, but she downloaded a free 87-page manual on something called EFT. She said, "Dad, it's the kind of stuff you always talk about," but her printer wouldn't work. She couldn't print it out. She wanted to print out a copy, take it to the office. And so, yeah, I'll do that for you. And I started reading the manual as I'm printing out these 10 or 15 pages. I got the chills in the back of the head.
Did you try any of the techniques that you were reading about?
Well, first off, when I first saw it, I just got excited remembering people in discussion groups and conversations where this could help them. And I literally was thinking, if he could do 2% of what he's talking about, it's fantastic. And So yes, I did start trying it out.
And was the way you discovered as one of those things that was meant to be.
Well,
synchronicity.
More than that, let me tell you. About a week later, I remembered I had a printer in the basement, and I had called my daughter and said, "By the way, I got a printer. If you still haven't," she said, "Oh no, my printer started working the day after you left."
Wow.
I know.
Yeah, it was one of those. And you mentioned, do you remember who the author was of that?
Yeah, it's, Gary Craig's the founder of EFT.
Uh-huh.
And he gave it to the world by actually putting a 95-page, 87 distinct pages on the internet, free.
Okay, so if people can still download the same document that you got started in.
He has since stopped that way, but free manuals are available.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Yeah, and is he still alive and teaching?
Yes, but he's not teaching this particular thing. He gave it to a couple other therapists who are maintaining the website and moving it forward.
Did you ever study with the originator, EFT originator?
Back in early 05, I took a 3-day class in Dallas using EFT on physical illnesses. Mm-hmm. And Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with him on the stage with people with physical stuff. And
what kind of physical stuff were they working with?
Hips and knees, tremors, etc. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that sounds awesome. What emotional results can someone expect from an EFT session?
Well, it just works even if you don't know the process. You use part of the process. In easing, comforting, anxiety eases. Matter of fact, if you don't mind, I could show you something just right where you are.
Okay.
Nothing out loud, just in your mind.
Okay.
Come up with anything that an anxiety, worry about something in the garden, or anything that triggers a little something for you.
Okay, got something.
Okay, so pay attention. It's less than comfortable, right?
Okay.
It's got you a little bit. Say something positive like peace, love, and joy in your mind.
Okay.
And bring your hand up. Just massage gently, just below the collarbones.
Okay, got to be careful. I don't want to hit the microphone.
Yeah.
Okay.
You go a little bit lower. Yeah. Just really in the EFT world, you're tapping, but just touching and massaging works. But you'll notice the peacefulness. You'll notice the calming.
Yeah. Should do this while I drive.
Yeah, especially when somebody cuts you off or something. Yeah.
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 Well, it almost, the word worry comes from the word wargong, which means to strangle. So when we worry, we're literally strangling ourselves, but this kind of has an opposite effect.
Very, very good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. So someone comes in or wants a session. Typically, how long is an EFT session, and what do you do?
Well, most of my sessions are on the phone.
Okay.
Now, if they've come to me, usually referral, somebody told them about success with me, and they'll call and say, can you do for me what you did for my friend? And of course, that leads into who are you, why are you calling, etc. Quite often it's an emotional issue, but when I start out, the first 10 minutes or so in the interviewing process is what's going on physically, because I tie that in with emotions. Mm-hmm. And after that, we start. Actually, it'll work beautifully if the person's just open-minded. They'll come up with the right memory to work on. Anything memory's got a negative sting, a bite, and the gentle tapping, the sting slips away. And as an example, grief or PTSD, only a couple sessions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so at what point in the session do you start having your clients tap?
Within 10 minutes or so. It's and then the tapping will be a half hour to 45 minutes. And it's very gentle. It's like under the eye, under the nose, just gentle tapping. The secret's in the focusing on the emotion.
Okay. Now, before the show, you mentioned you've been teaching at Infinity for over 10 years.
Yeah.
typically when do you teach your Infinity class?
Well, it'll vary. I've had a couple free 2-hour sessions just to introduce it. Once a year we do a 2-day class for 12 hours.
Okay.
And
that's a long time.
well, we cover a lot.
Yeah.
And the participants also experience a lot of relief. They work on themselves.
Okay. And they work on other people with your guidance, I assume?
Yeah, yes.
Now, is there any contraindications or harm that could be done?
No, the only thing is I've had some people react when we get too close to something they don't want to release.
Okay.
An emotional thing that they want to blame someone else and want to hold on to it, and sometimes they get upset with me.
Okay.
1 out of 100, 1 out of 200, but...
Okay. And when you did that with me, you said, well, pick something that evokes anxiety, but you can just think it to yourself. Is that what you're doing with your clients, or they actually express out loud what it makes them anxious?
Yeah, very good. Both, Jay. It doesn't have. They don't have to tell me anything.
Okay.
But the secret's a number of points. One is focusing on a particular memory. So if I think they're not focusing on a particular memory, then I'll ask them to tell me something a little bit, and then I'll hear things like, "Yeah, but he always did it," or "He'll do it when I get off the phone," or something like that. So I know they're not focusing. Then
Okay.
I'll ask them for some particulars of the memory to help them focus.
Okay. And say somebody has a session and it reduces their anxiety. How long will the effectiveness of the treatment, EFT treatment, last?
On that memory, forever.
Okay.
It's gone, it's gone.
Okay.
Yeah. I've had people call back for another session for something, and I'll happen to remember what we worked on, and I'll ask them, well, how are you feeling about that? And they'll say, are you sure that was me? It was gone.
Yeah. Is it expensive?
Yes and no. Going to therapy is much more expensive. I usually charge $140 for a session and $75 each for follow-ups.
Yeah.
And 2 to 3 sessions is all that's needed, and it'll accomplish more than going for weeks and years to therapy.
Yeah, and you're also the EFT with a guarantee, and if your success is guaranteed, or you don't have to pay for it.
Correct.
Do you keep track of how many people end up not choosing to pay? Or?
Well, very few, but I do have a number of people where they can't afford anything, so I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
But the actual payment comes right after, and I don't charge ahead of time. I let them have the session first.
Okay. Now, in the intro, I talked about how you've done most of your sessions on the phone. Now, if someone does Skype, they can actually see the person, or both sides can see one another. So how does EFT work if you're on the phone, you're not even seeing these people?
Jay, I have not set up the camera.
Yeah.
So that we don't even use Skype that way.
Yeah.
I do use Skype, like we had a client last week from Sweden, but it's still just on the phone.
Yeah.
I just guide them where to focus, and I guide them where to tap.
But is it possible they can be tapping in the wrong spot?
Yes, but it still works.
Okay.
It still works. As an example of the spots, we use about a half a dozen primarily. One of them is right at the start of the eyebrows.
Okay.
Bridge of the nose.
Yeah.
If you look on the acupuncture charts, there's actually 6 different major trigger points. They can't get it wrong.
Yeah.
You're just tapping anywhere up at the bridge of the nose, they got it.
Well, I notice a lot of times when people are feeling exhausted or despair, they'll kind of put their hands in their heads.
We know this stuff. But when I asked you to tap for yourself, you've probably seen people go, oh my, and they pat their chest.
Right,
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And so you mentioned that there's 6 spots, and they're acupuncture spots. I'm not an acupuncturist, but I've seen acupuncture charts, the meridians, and usually there's organs associated with the various points and meridians. So let's say if somebody was having problems with the liver, you might tap one place, or a gallbladder, or another.
And that technical spot, most of the EFT world, they stayed away from those technical connections.
Okay.
It's just emotional.
Simplify it.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Now, you mentioned there's like 6 major spots. One's between
No, I meant one of the tapping spots is start of the eyebrows.
Okay.
And there are 6 major acupuncture spots there.
Oh, okay.
So if they're just tapping anywhere up here, they got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about, we can't tap our backs. What do you do for that?
No, there's no spots like there.
Okay.
Let me show you just briefly some of them.
Yeah.
The start of most of the sessions is tapping on what's called a karate chop.
Okay.
And it's a fleshy part on the side of the hand, and top of the head. And so I'm telling somebody on the phone, use your free hand and tap on the top of your head. Start of the eyebrows, outside corner of the eye, under the nose, in the chin area, and then the collarbone. There's a couple more under the arm and stuff, but very simple.
And do you have a website?
Yes.
And so on your website, do you have pictures of where to tap?
Charts, yes. 3 or 4 different charts.
So if someone could be looking at the charts or printing them out to see where to tap.
Correct.
On the phone.
Yeah. But it's so simple, they don't even have to. I just guide people who just heard about it, and we have a fantastic session.
Do you record your sessions on the phone?
No.
I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No.
Because people can re-listen to it and use it again.
Yeah.
Now, what about breaking bad habits, addictions, like compulsive spending, smoking, overeating?
Yeah. Well, a couple things. One, let me just say, as a coping device, the simple one I just showed you, the shortcut, the tapping on, if people catch themselves with the impulse, there's a feeling involved. And just doing that, they can break the habit.
A pattern interrupt.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's very simple, and it works in 2 seconds. So that's just a simple one. But usually what will come up, though, if somebody's really coming for therapy, all right, for 1 or 2 good sessions, a memory will come up that's related to it in some fashion. And we work on the sting of that negative memory.
Okay. Yeah. So the body stores memories.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Just like the mind could remember things, the body remembers them.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Do you and your clients expect the same results on the phone as you do from an in-person session?
Same. Definitely.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works better. There's less conversation about who are you and all that. There's less concern about how you look and things like that. The client focuses better.
Okay. Now, you want to talk about any other physical issues that EFT is good for that you haven't already discussed?
Well, let me give you an example.
Okay.
We were guest speakers and had a booth at a 3-day conference in Daytona Beach for a couple of years, the International Association of Counselors and Therapists. And so Friday morning, as the just start of the conference, I've got a table and a booth, and I've got free 10-minute EFT sessions. A school psychologist sits down for his free 10 minutes. So I asked him, first off, what's going on physically in your body? And he had a knee operation 1.5 years earlier. He used to be a runner, but he can't run anymore because of the knee operation.
Well, that could cause depression, too.
Yeah. So I asked him to come up with a memory where he had anxiety in or out of a relationship with a male. Right side, hip and knee is our movement into or out of a situation. His only thing I heard from him, he says, my brother-in-law. So it was a distinct memory. 10 minutes later, he's getting up, and the pain wasn't there. The next morning, he's in front of our booth on Saturday morning, telling people I'm a miracle worker. He's telling the other psychologists, you got to sit down with this guy. He's a miracle worker. He's psychic. Linda got him to write up his little testimony blurb. But he ran his 3 miles without pain.
Wow.
It is a wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about hospitals? You know, I'm familiar with like therapeutic touch, you know, where there's really no touching physically.
Right.
As you know, if EFT is used in hospitals these days?
There are some, yes. Matter of fact, I forget which ones, but there's 1 or 2 in the Chicago area that have some EFT practitioners working.
Now that I think about it, that neighbor I mentioned with PTSD, I mean, he learned EFT at a veterans hospital.
Yeah.
So I answered my own question. Sorry about that.
Did he say where, which one?
Probably the one in northern Illinois.
Oh, okay, good. I've been a hospice volunteer at Heinz for 20 years.
Okay, that's
And,
Maywood, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Next door to Maywood.
Yeah.
Heinz has their own zip code.
Yeah.
But I just mentioned it a couple times to them, but they weren't interested years ago. So.
Yeah. Well, they're changing, and I think the military is desperate and desires to care for veterans who've been.
If I could, the vets I've worked with to help get rid of PTSD, it's going to sound braggadocio, but it's 1 session. And it's always, they get in touch with a woulda, coulda, shoulda thought. I should have warned my buddy, I shouldn't have done this, I should have looked. There's a woulda, coulda, shoulda thought, and it helps tremendously with EFT.
Yeah, and do you find that's a big problem in your regular practice, that people feel guilty about something they did or didn't do?
Every client, Jay. Every client, right from the get-go. Actually, I used to moderate discussion groups and prayer groups, and when I heard about EFT, that's some of the thoughts. I remember some of these people talking about something horrendous, but they always had maybe I shouldn't have walked there. I should have trusted them. Everybody's got a woulda, coulda, shoulda thought.
Yeah. What about using? You know, you're talking about EFT for intervention. What about prevention? You know, like preventing illnesses by maintaining optimal health. Can you just do it when there's not a problem presenting itself?
Definitely. Ideally, what happened is if the person acknowledges or gets in touch with the negative feeling within themselves, such as enjoying chocolate, and all of a sudden at a certain point it won't feel right, but we continue eating the chocolate because it's good taste, it tastes good.
Or ice cream, or cake.
Ice cream, right. And so instead, if they train themselves to pay attention to notice the discomfort, their body will be telling them with a feeling, no more, you've had enough.
And so is there tapping once you've reached the satiation point?
Yes, and a gentle tapping someplace, any one of the spots, it eases the tension, and people won't go forward with the
well, and I would also think it would make them more consciously aware, so they're just not unconsciously stuffing themselves.
Matter of fact, a couple of clients reported back they noticed the taste change after they started paying attention and using EFT, and then if they continued with the whatever the particular thing was, the cigarettes or the chocolate or whatever, the taste changed. It wasn't as fulfilling.
And you know, can you? What's about 13 years you've been involved in EFT?
13.
Can you say a few words how you use EFT in your day-to-day life?
Obviously, the most important part for me is in the moment. I use this below the collarbones quite often. I notice a worry thought, a fear thought, an anxious thought, and that helps tremendously in the moment.
Now, you came with your sweet young partner.
Yeah.
And do you support one another with the EFT techniques?
Yes, oh, definitely. Linda's been very helpful on this behind the scenes stuff, but we just had a client that called the other day, and Linda handled it.
Okay. So the tapping is always done by the person?
Yes.
So it's not like I would tap on someone else or you would tap on someone else. It's always us tapping on ourselves.
Not necessarily. In personal sessions or in class situations, I have tapped on other people. Most EFT practitioners are tapping on other people.
Okay.
Most of them, because I'm on the on the phone with the person, I have them tap. But I also have had situations with very successful sessions where I'm tapping on myself for them. Mm-hmm. Well, part of the secret.
Oh, so it's kind of like a long distance healing.
Correct.
Even though you're not physically in the room, it's by you tapping on yourself. It's like helping the person on the other end of the phone who could be in another country.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I get that.
I've developed 7 steps. The first 3 steps are what everybody does in the EFT world: tapping, coming up with a single, negative memory. And I had a couple situations over the years where I was moderating a discussion group, and I asked people, I'm moderating it, and said, we've got a subject tonight. I want 10 minutes if you wouldn't mind first, and then we'll get into the subject. And I asked them to experiment with sitting in the quiet, close their eyes for 8 to 10 minutes, picture a negative memory, and see if you can really feel what you thought you felt in that memory. And 1 or 2 out of 20 would tell me it's gone.
Just by
Allowing
if you feel it, you can heal it.
Heal, correct.
Yeah.
And I remember that, and I got excited about that. And so when I heard about EFT, that one of my 7 steps is for people to really get in touch. I help them really get in touch with what they felt.
Okay, so you said 7 steps.
Yes.
Now, and you came up with those 7 steps?
Well, yes. The first 3 steps are what everybody does in the EFT world. Come up with a specific memory, get rid of psychological reversal, and tap.
Okay.
The 4th step, which I developed, is now they go back doing the tapping again in the different places, but they're using the phrase, I am feeling. And everybody, when they really pay attention, has got 15 to 20 negative feelings with every negative memory. Mm-hmm. And they really get in touch with them, and all of a sudden, even after tapping on all these spots and voicing that, I'll actually hear their voice change. It'll be more like part of their history rather than feeling.
Okay.
Yeah. The 5th step is feeling that guilt. Everybody's got a woulda, coulda, shoulda.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have looked. I should have. We have time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where the hardest part of having a client really get 100% success, for them to really acknowledge the woulda, coulda, shoulda thoughts they had.
Well, I'm going to cut you off right there because I'm getting the wrap-up signal.
Okay. Good.
But it's been a pleasure to interview you. For more information about Tom, EFT, Infinity Foundation, or Quest, please go to the Infinity Foundation's website. Until next time, wish you good health, good spirits, and good fortune. Tom, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you, Jay.
You're welcome.
Please visit our website, infinityfoundation.org, or call us at 847-831-8828.